Yo people, welcome back to another video. Now, I know you've read the thumbnail and the title, but AJ, OB can't be Kang or his variants because of the temporal aura. We saw that Victor Timely put his head in the machine, blah 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 blah, all of that stuff. Now hold on, what if OB is Kang, but from a certain point of view? My prediction is that OB is a robot slash AI slash android, whatever you want to call it. He has been programmed by Kang to have a lot of maybe the fundamental or a foundation base of information given to him by Kang, to which OB just keeps adding information. So let's look at what we have so far, and let's start with something simple such as his name, Ouroboros. Now there's a lot of symbolism with Ouroboros, but I'll show you the symbol itself, and usually it can be found as a serpent or a dragon eating its own tail, and it's usually shown as a circle. It's often used to represent the eternal cycle of destruction and recreation, which is basically what's happening in this show, in terms of the destroying the timelines and potentially the solution being to create a new timeline, new universe, along those lines. Now tell me, who is controlling all of this, multiverse, all of that stuff? He Who Remains, right? So what if He Who Remains controls OB? Now I use the word controls because OB is an android, robot, whatever you want to call it. Now remember, I just said the Ouroboros can be a snake or dragon. So now let's go back to season 1 and those 3 fake timekeepers. Please tell me the one on the right doesn't look like some sort of dragon. What if these 3 robots were put in place to originally symbolize the 3 real timekeepers? He Who Remains at the top, Miss Minutes on the left, and OB on the right. Ouroboros is also a sign of self-reliance, which is literally describing OB, the guy who has been working for centuries by himself, carrying the entire TVA on his back, and literally the only person working in his department when we find him, at least. He talks about not being able to sleep because he's scared of falling behind on work and all of that stuff. What if he doesn't need sleep because he's an android, as we said? We even see when Mobius says he doesn't remember meeting OB, that OB remembers meeting him. So clearly Mobius has had his mind wiped like all of the other TVA members, but He Who Remains doesn't wipe OB's mind. This surely proves it's because OB is an android and the mind wiping doesn't affect him. Or if it does affect him, then clearly He Who Remains has chosen to not wipe OB's mind. Think about it. If OB gets his mind wiped, bye bye all the decades and centuries of research. So for sure he must have some sort of allegiance with He Who Remains. They have some sort of connection. Also, let's not forget, he seems to be the only guy who can tell time in the TVA. Very convenient. If He Who Remains put everything in place, then we have to assume he has overseen every little detail within the TVA. OB wouldn't be there by accident. He's a genius, and as we know, knowledge is power. And by that very quote, it makes this guy one of the biggest threats around. Whether he's a good guy, whether he's a bad guy, he's still a threat to everyone and a potential game changer for either side. He seems to be responsible for a lot of the tech creations and a lot of the tech repairs at the TVA, which could be anything. Maybe even going as far as OB creating those 3 fake timekeepers I mentioned earlier from season 1. He just knows way too much to not have any further story. He's not a regular guy. Usually the smart, clutch, pure-hearted people like this get killed off, so maybe that's his storyline. But if they stay alive, it's usually because they have an allegiance to the bad guy, the bad person, or they themselves are a villain. Maybe the only reason OB is even nice to Loki and Mobius is because it's just in his programming to be helpful, and every time he can help, he sees it as a way of him learning and absorbing more and more information which he can just give to He Who Remains. Another thing to pick up on from episode 4 was that we got shown that Victor Timely was inspired by OB's work, but OB says he was inspired by Victor's work in this whole which came first, the chicken or the egg kind of cycle, which this could prove that He Who Remains programmed OB, so that way he wouldn't have to expose himself to the world alongside his ideas, instead hiding behind OB, and no one could trace OB back to He Who Remains, keeping himself anonymous. One thing that caught my attention was last episode when Miss Minutes wanted the BBC from Victor. What if she knew that He Who Remains had already given a body to OB? What if he was AI, same as Miss Minutes, but he got a body? And that's why she knew it was possible for him to do so. And that's why she was acting a bit weird, a bit jealous. I don't know, that just was very weird. I don't think they'd put that just for the sake of it. They're leaving a lot of mystery to Miss Minutes as well as Mobius in particular, so who knows what the deal is? Do they have some sort of connection they don't know about, in particular with Mobius, who hasn't gone back to check what he used to do? So again, a lot of things that could be explored and unveiled very soon. Also, lastly, just from the real world perspective, the actor behind OB, I don't think he would just sign up to the Loki show and not be an important part of the story. He literally has an Oscar to his name. So maybe this is his time to subvert expectations and be an evil character for once. I'm pretty sure the film he got an Oscar in, he was a good guy, then he became a bad guy, something along those lines. So maybe it's time to bring that into the Western culture, because people only know him mostly for being Data from the Goonies or Short Round from Indiana Jones, which is cute, innocent, all of that stuff. Now it's time to really show the acting skills. But yeah, let me know what you think down below in the comments. I do think that if he's not an android, robot, whatever you want to call it, then at the very least, he is a friend of Kang's. And he still helped Kang build the TVA, but there's definitely a connection between them. If this is the case, that he actually is his own self, then I do want OB to turn evil and really show that villain side to him, as it would be a cool plot twist. As always, if you enjoyed the content, feel free to sub to the channel, as we are closing in on the road to 500 subs. Drop a like on the video as well while you're at it. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.